Welcome to another episode of Journey, navigating our journey in Eretz Yisrael. We are now in the 3 weeks, not sure when this chapter will go live, but we are now in the 3 weeks of mourning Yerushalayim, the Beis Hamikdash. Everyone davens 3 times a day for the Beis Hamikdash, for Yerushalayim, for Eretz Yisrael, and how much more so in the 3 weeks. One of the challenges that people face when they're moving to Israel is obviously parnassah. Parnassah is not easy anywhere in the world. Parnassah is even harder, maybe even harder in Eretz Yisrael. Today we are having the zchus of hosting Reb Zev Weinberger from Bet Shemesh, a coach in director of business in Mesila, who specializes in the English-speaking community in Eretz Yisrael, and he'll help us navigate our way through this challenge or issue, what we'd want to call it, in Eretz Yisrael. Welcome, Reb Zev.
Thank you, Yossi. Thank you for the introduction. Let's help some Yidden.
What do you see as the main challenge for couples, for families, older families in Israel today more than years ago? Has things become harder? The parnassah has never been easy. Parnassah in Eretz Yisrael has never been easy. Eretz Yisrael niknas b'Yisurim, as we all know. Has it become harder?
When I lecture to Israeli families, this applies to everyone, I present it as the challenge of change. Most people reach their peak earning years in their 40s.
Okay.
That's when people make the most money. They have had time to progress in their career. They climbed the career ladder, so to speak, and that's when they make the most money. Families in the frum communities have 2 big challenges surrounding this topic. The first one is they get married younger and they have kids much earlier
Than the general public.
The general public.
Yes.
So the cost of living rise for the family goes through the roof very early, before their ability to make money catches up. A young couple in their 30s could have 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 kids, and they're not yet in their peak earning years. The second problem that stems from that is the actual numbers people need to make in order to make these work, survive. There was once I don't want to give him credit, but Yair Lapid,
Okay.
right? He spoke, when he ran for office, when was it? 6, 7, 8 years ago? I don't remember. He spoke about the middle class in Israel.
Right.
He spoke about Ricky Cohen from Chadera.
Right.
Ricky Cohen from Chadera, two income family household. They're making around 20,000 shekel a year. That was the average salary. 20,000 shekel a month. That was the average salary in Israel back at the time. And poor Ricky Cohen from Chadera could only afford to buy a car once every 3 years and go on vacation in Chutz La'aretz with the family once a year.
Go tell that to the guys in Bet Shemesh,
Right,
or anywhere in Israel.
Right. So back then, Mesila had a program they were running with one of the banks and one of the big Haredi newspapers, and they were coaching people. They had a series of articles on the thing, and one of the families that came in was a family where the woman was working in high tech. They were making 20,000 shekel, and people wrote into the paper complaining that these people don't.
Doesn't add up.
It's not that it doesn't add up. These people don't. They
don't represent us.
They don't represent the standard Haredi family.
Right.
And my friend and colleague Nachum Brook ran the numbers, and he says a family of 8 nefashos, 6 kids, 2 parents, with 20,000 shekel could barely make ends meet.
Back then.
Even today. Today it's even worse. So let's just give a number we use.
Okay.
A rule of thumb.
Yes.
Rule of thumb is the cost of living per head, per person in a household is between 2,000 and 2,500 shekel a month, excluding housing.
You mean a family? Let's go back to that 8.
A family of 8, which is the average number in our tzibur,
means 20,000 shekel.
That means
before rent or mortgage.
We're talking about between We said 2,000 times 8. We're talking between 16,000 and 20,000
Right.
shekel a month before housing. Now, these are average numbers. So if they're a little bit more Israeli and they're a little bit more frugal and their standard of living is a little bit lower, they might be a little bit below that number. This is on average, depending on the age of their kids. If they have kids that are in yeshivas and they're paying more for tuition, then it'll be a little bit higher. If they have younger kids in tzaronim and daycare, it's also a little bit higher. If they have a bunch of daughters aged 6 to 14, then relatively low, but on average.
Right.
These are the numbers that we use as a rule of thumb in Mesila with the thousands of families that come through us every year. So if you look at that number, that means that an average family in their early 30s needs to be making at the very least 20 to 25,000 shekel.
As you said, before mortgage or rent.
Before mortgage or rent. Let's say mortgage or rent, they bought a house 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And their rent and their mortgage is relatively low. We're still looking at around between 20 and 25,000 shekel a year at the bare minimum. Just to make ends meet. Now, the challenge with that is that that's higher than the average salary. Even with both parents working, the average salary in Eretz Yisrael at the moment is 13,700 shekel before tax, not take home pay.
Right.
So if we add up those numbers, it doesn't add up. Now, the average is skewed. The average is skewed a little bit up because people who make more money raise the average.
That's right.
So less than 30% of the population is making the average salary. The median salary is around 10,500 shekel. So 50% of people are making less than 10,000, then let's say 9,500 shekel take-home pay. So how do people survive? That's the struggle. That's the struggle. Now, it's true for every family, Israeli families, but people coming from Chutz La'aretz have an even bigger challenge because their standard of living is higher. They're used to a lot more. Now, the answers aren't simple. There's no easy, just wave a wand and fix this. There's no magic
Wave the
wand.
credit card.
Wave the credit card. Yeah, that's for sure. That helps a lot. So when I speak to younger couples, we talk about planning ahead. This is the long-term solution, the long-term fix. This is ideal. Ideally, people would think about their lifetime spending. Expand their horizon. Don't think just about the next 3, 4, 5 years. Think in a 20-year time horizon. If you expand your thinking over a 20-year time horizon, then putting aside 2,000 shekel a month towards savings doesn't seem like a lot. I know when a young couple starts out, 2,000 shekel a month, that's a lot. Let's make it 3,000. Let's round it up. $1,000 a month. Sounds like a lot. Yes. But $1,000 a month now could save you tens of thousands of shekels in debt when it comes to our mitzvahs and just the regular cost of living. Yeah. So if you start saving early and you invest that money, we may go into that in depth further on, how and where people invest. Over the long term, you could save up a couple 100,000 shekel, probably around 3, 4, 500, depending on how consistent you are and how long you've been doing this for. And that could help carry you through the stretch between, say, age 28 to age 40, where
make it or break
income, where the income might make up for it and some of the expenses go down because you start marrying golf kids and some things go up, some things go down. It's not a complete solution, but it gives people something to fall back on. When they don't have that, they fall back on debt. And that's when people come to us and there is no easy fix. But this we're talking just like generally speaking. And what I tell people is that they have to start thinking out of the box. You can't start thinking of, I need to make more money, so I have to increase my hours at my job. Because an extra hour times 20 days a month, 20 hours a month is not going to bring in that much money. It's an extra 1,000 shekel. Take-home pay is even less. This is where I encourage people to start thinking what they know how to provide to the market and start a side hustle, a side gig, a business, something they can do on the side. Again, this is a rule of thumb, a benchmark. Aim to work for 20 hours a month at a pay of a minimum of 300 shekel an hour. But that's for people who are struggling. Yeah. I believe, as I've coached over 40 businesses in the last year through Mesila.
Wow.
Everyone has some sort of unique value they could provide. There is something. You have your unique life experience. You have the things you know how to do, the things you're passionate about, the things you like doing, things that you've been through and you figured out how to solve. You just have to turn around and be confident and sell it to other people. And people are willing to pay if you actually solve a problem for them. But that's on the business side, and that's how we fix the problem for people who are already struggling.
Right.
But the struggle is real. The struggle is real. I'm sure the struggle exists other places as well. The cost of living in America is also through the roof. I spoke to my cousin. He's living in Houston, Texas. And he tells me that he has, Baruch Hashem, 4 kids. He says that a family of 6 in Houston, in Frum Kehila, when they're sending their kids to Frum education, private schools, says they couldn't make it on $200,000 a year, which is, once again, way above the average income in the U.S. In the U.S.,
even, right? Sure.
The average income in the U.S. is around $60,000, $65,000 a year, the average. In the cities, it's a little bit more. Out of town, it's a little bit less. But he says a family could make it on $200,000 a year. That's a crazy number. That's it's how do people do it? That is an issue there as well. So when it comes to moving to Eretz Yisrael, people who are living in Chutz La'aretz, I want to move here. So first of all, you have to understand the system you're living in. Now, there is one thing, and I'll want to circle back to that later, because the biggest arbitrage, the thing that people coming from Chutz La'aretz could do to actually make it in Israel is make an American or whatever it is, European salary while living here, because the salaries are on average much higher, and then they'd be living, their income would be probably top 20% in the country, and that means they could make it. Doesn't mean it's easy, but if they do that, they could make it. If they're moving here and they're looking to get parnassah here, then they'd have to have extremely transferable skills, and they'd have to really dial it in. Not saying it's impossible. People do it all the time here, but it's a struggle, and the struggle is real.
Is there a solution for younger people, older people? Your coaching to a younger couple would be different than to an elderly couple or older family?
So the basics stay the same. The basics are always, you have to be aware of how much you're bringing in, how much you're spending. You have to track your spending. You have to run a budget. You can't just look back at what I spent last month. You always have to plan ahead, and you have to have a long-term plan. For a younger couple, we'd focus mainly on not adopting bad habits. Just start out correctly, and you'll do pretty well for yourself if you know what you're doing, because most people don't know what they're doing, which is not our fault. It's not the system's fault. It's just the way it is. No one teaches us about finances. Some of our parents are very good at it. Some of them weren't. Most of them didn't speak about finances. So people don't have... I for myself, I was very into finances from a very young age. I liked...
Numbers.
I liked numbers. I liked talking about stocks. I liked talking about business. I didn't know that much about it. My grandfather was investing, and he used to talk about it, and I used to listen, and that sounded very cool and all. But I didn't know that much. When I started out as a young couple, let me put it this way. There are 3 types of people.
Okay.
Some people are savers. Their natural inclination is to save money. They gain more hana from seeing the money accumulate than spending it.
Okay.
Some people are spenders. They gain enough. They have enough from buying stuff. The new stuff, they love it. It's great for them.
Right.
Some people are, and define it as givers. They don't spend on themselves, but they'll spend on people close to them. They'll give a lot of tzedakah. They'll buy presents for their wife. If his wife asks for something, sure. He'll never buy anything for himself. That's somewhere in between. Now, we have to balance these 3 types of behavior in all of us. There are times to save, there are times to spend, there are times to give. I was always naturally a saver. It never crossed my mind that I'd spend more money than I make. As a bachar, I didn't really work. I used to do odd jobs here and there, bein asmanim. When I got married, I had 15,000 shekel. I felt like the richest guy in yeshiva.
Right.
I probably was the richest guy in yeshiva.
Probably.
And then when I got married, I figured out that within 2-3 months, the money's gone.
Yeah.
What's 15,000 shekels? 15,000 shekels is barely 3 months of living for a young couple where the parents are helping us with the rent. It's nothing. So my whole perspective about money shifted. But then again, I assumed that just as I'd been up until today, where every month I was saving money, I was spending less than I was making, I'd keep on doing that. And then life happened.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Family grows. Expenses
my
grow.
wife is more of a free spirit. She likes spending money.
Okay.
She enjoys the act of getting new stuff and nice things and enjoying the money she worked hard to make. And for a while it worked because we didn't have that many expenses. Just a young couple. The parents are helping with rent. We didn't own a car. No big expenses on the line. And then we bought a house.
And then everything changes.
And that's when everything started turning around. Suddenly there are a ton of big expenses. And in human psychology, there's a whole field of psychology called behavioral economics. It's a field in economics and fields in psychology, right? I think the term was coined by Professor Daniel Kahneman and Professor Amos Tversky, two Jewish boys, and they were psychologists, and they won a Nobel Prize for finance, for economics. They wrote a book, wonderful book, not an easy read, Thinking Fast and Slow, and they walked through the different things that psychologically cause us to make financial mistakes. So one of these things is relative thinking. So when you make 10,000 shekel a month and you spend 7,000 shekel a month, that's the scope of your financial world. You're anchored on that price. Anything that's more than 500 shekel, then 100 shekel seems like it's expensive.
Right.
And then you go out and you buy a house, and suddenly you're talking millions and hundreds of thousands of shekels. And within a couple of months, you have hundreds of thousands of shekels going through your bank account, and I need to move into a new house.
Right.
And suddenly you're spending like you've never spent before, because you need to buy some furniture and you need to do some things, renovations and AC, and we're talking tens of thousands of shekels. And suddenly your mindset shifts. Suddenly anything that's below 1,000 shekels seems cheap. Because I'm spending thousands of shekels on it, tens of thousands, and suddenly you let go on certain different things. Oh, that's only 1,000 shekel, big deal. And that's a slippery slope. And you wake up one day and you figure out, and suddenly, for the first time, the 10th or the 15th of the month is coming close.
Reality hits.
And 1 second, I don't have enough money in my bank account. And that's when you go into debt the first time. Baruch Hashem, we didn't slide down that slope, but that's when reality hit. And that's when things changed. And I thought I understood finances, and I was into finances, and I was looking at the numbers, but I wasn't actively managing my money. I didn't have a long-term plan. I was just living life as it came at me. Just, okay, 1 month at a time. We'll take things 1 month at a time. Oh, we have money left over. Let's put it aside. We didn't optimize the savings. We didn't know where we were putting the money. When I took out a mortgage, the mortgage broker told me, oh, the prime interest is the cheapest interest. And now Bank of Israel just changed the regulations. You can have 2/3 of your mortgage in prime. I said, oh, that sounds great. How much is the prime? Prime is 1.6%. Oh, great. This is very cheap mortgage. Inflation is more than that.
That's right.
Inflation is around 2% a year. It's basically free money. And then COVID hit, and then interest rates skyrocketed. And suddenly my mortgage was very expensive. It went up by like 2,000 shekel a month. And I had no idea. I made that decision, this enormous financial decision, with zero insight, with zero understanding of what the long-term implications are. So that's where we meet people, and that's what we teach them. So if you're talking to a young couple, it's like, just give them the basics. Understand inflation, understand how interest works, understand how the banking system works, understand how compounding works. A little bit of money now goes a long way down the road. So those are the basics, and just managing things. When people come, when they have a mishpacha already, the basics stay the same. We still talk about the same topics. But usually the focus will be...
They're starting at a lower vantage point.
Right.
At a worse point.
Once again, people in their 30s still have 40 years of investing ahead of them. Plenty of time.
Right.
But life's happening. Life is happening now. And they need to pay for their expenses now. And that's when the focus becomes on how can we enhance their income? Where can we bring in some more money from? How can we usually don't go down that route unless we have to. How can we cut expenses, cut our spending on different stuff? And we have to become a lot more proactive about it. But there's always a solution. There's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. If people are committed, they have to be intentional. No one wins by mistake. No one wakes up suddenly at the age of 45, they're marrying off their kid. Oh, I have however much they want to give, however much they give in their kehillah. 200,000, 300,000, 800,000 shekel. It doesn't happen by mistake. It has to be planned. So that's where we meet people, and that's the coaching that we go through with people.
Are the overseas people different than the Israelis in their mindset, in the initial mind? The younger couples moving here to Israel, are they different to the Israelis at that stage?
As far as understanding finances, I think they're all basically the same. No one has that.
No one has it.
No one has it. Though the awareness in Israel has been rising in the past 3 years. I've been seeing a very big change. There are workshops all the time. People are talking about saving for weddings from a very young age, for their children's chasanas. So there has been a shift. People are more aware of their finances because they don't have a choice. You have to. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. But overall...
To be or not to be.
Yeah. Overall, younger couples have no idea. older couples are set in their ways. They have bad financial habits sometimes, things they've accumulated along the way, and there's a lot more work to be done there. But there is a little bit of a mindset difference between people in Eretz Yisrael and people in America. People in Eretz Yisrael who grew up here usually they're okay with living at a lower standard of living. Not always.
Because that's what they've grown up with.
Right. Even though now you walk into an average Israeli Avrich's home and it looks nothing like their parents' home.
No.
They all have the brand new flooring. They're all 60 by 120 meters, big tiles, a new couch, nice light fixtures. They all have air conditioning. My in-laws have one air conditioning in the house. It's in the living room. The kids, my brother-in-law tells me that when we wanted air conditioning, we used to open the door to the hallway and put a fan in the hallway, so we have air conditioning. So things have changed.
Right.
The standard of living has gone up everywhere, but that's also due to the economy. The economy has gotten better everywhere. The average GDP, right, gross domestic product, has gone up. The standard of living has gone up. I was just looking the past week to buy a new car, and I bought a car 7 years ago. I bought a used car. I'm not telling you that's what you all have to do, but one of the big expenses is a car.
Obviously.
In America, for sure, everyone does 3-year leases. They finance the cars. Israelis do that as well. So it's only 1,000 shekel, 3,000 shekel a month, 2,000 shekel a month. It's only that much. It's okay. But then you have debt and you have a depreciating asset. But I bought a used car 7 years ago, a 9-year-old car with 120,000 kilometers on it. And I paid 34,000 shekel for the car. I was looking to buy the equivalent, the same car today. So again, a 9-year-old car, 2017, with the same amount of kilometers, and the price for the same car, same model, is now 60 to 65,000 shekel.
Double, better, yeah.
Now, part of it is due to inflation. Yes, prices have gone up. Inflation has not been 100% in the past 7 years. No. Not even close. 30%, maybe. Yeah, we had years of high inflation during COVID, but then you look at the two cars and compare them, they're not the same. The new model of this car is a hybrid, and it has a nice multimedia display, and it has all the fancy, whatever it is, gadgets and everything. Yeah. The same model, the same car, it's not the same. So we're not comparing apples to apples because the standard of living has gone up. Everything around us has been upgraded. So even in Israel, the standard of living has gone up, but still, people in Israel are more inclined to spend less and live off of less and make things work. Americans...
Because we have to make things work.
Yeah, everyone has to make things work.
That's true.
But what's acceptable and what's classified as a need as opposed to a want is different. An American family could tell you that we need 2 cars. For an Israeli family, 2 cars is a want. They don't need it. Rarely will they say we need it. Rarely will they say we need a car. Many of them make do without a car. So the standard, the anchor point, the point they're starting from is very different. Another rule of thumb, so the cost of groceries per person in a household is, according to the official data in Israel, is 176 shekel a week. Per head. Realistically, I've been coaching families for the past 2 years, over 100 families now, and the numbers are closer to 200 on average. I've seen families live on less, do 150 and even 120. I don't know what they're eating. I have no idea. But on average, the number I use with Israeli clients is 200 shekel per head in a household per week. So multiply that times 4.2, and that'll give you what the monthly cost of groceries should be. With chutznik families, 250 is the standard, like the bare minimum. They're not living off less because they're buying some of the products they know. They're buying the products they know, the imported products, and they're paying more. And to them, what do you mean? We have to eat fleishigs every night. You can't have fleishigs only twice a week. Well, impossible. And we have to have cream cheese. You can't just have gvina levana. And we need to buy bagels. We're not just going to buy regular sliced bread. And these are all legitimate. Just people have to be aware of what they're paying for. So if someone's considering moving to Eretz Yisrael and they want to maintain the same standard of living, there's a price. There's a price tag. And if you could afford it, be my guest. I'm all for people enjoying life. I'm all for Yidden being rich. I'm all for Yidden having the good things in life.
Yes.
But it has to make sense. If someone wants to make a responsible decision, a responsible, really big life decision, they have to be aware of these things.
Have you ever told people, don't come to Israel? Or don't stay, it's not for you?
That's an excellent question. Unfortunately, people don't come to ask me. Usually people make the decision and they go ask the Rebbe, and they make the decision after things aren't working anymore. And either they ask the Rebbe if they should come to Eretz Yisrael, or they ask the Rebbe, is it time to leave? And there are usually a lot of other factors involved by then. There's the chinuch factor, which is a big one. I didn't experience it firsthand. So let me just give you the background.
Yes.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. I came to Eretz Yisrael after my Pidyon Ben, and since then I've been here. Okay, so I grew up here. I lived here. My parents came for 1 year and stayed for 33 now. And I grew up in the Israeli system. I went to regular mainstream Israeli cheder, regular mainstream Israeli yeshiva ktana, regular mainstream Israeli yeshiva gdola. And as far as I experienced it, it was a seamless experience. I was the same as all my friends. But I've since spoken to my parents. I've grown up a little bit, and I've heard that it wasn't that easy. And they had to fight every step of the way. So if people, let's put this nicely. I don't want to talk in black and white.
Yeah.
Anyone who's coming to Eretz Yisrael and thinking that they're going to live in Chutz La'aretz at Eretz Yisrael will probably run into some sort of roadblock. Things won't work out that well.
You mean making it financially, or you mean
I mean the whole system, systematically. Chinuch is an issue, and if you're trying to send your kids to American moisdis, then at some point they'll have trouble integrating. Because if you plan on living here and they live here, then suddenly their pool of potential shidduchim is smaller, and potential jobs is smaller because they don't speak the language and they're not part of the culture, and they start struggling. And I'm not a mechanech, but it's very common that they fall between the gaps, and we see a lot of kids who don't look like their parents and are not
misfit.
Yeah, not the way their parents envisioned and not the way they wanted. I'll quote my mother on this, that the only way to make it in Eretz Yisrael is if you're willing to integrate. You have to be willing to pay the price and integrate fully into the system. That means paying some prices along the way, especially with chinuch and trying to force your way into the system to become mainstream. I never had an issue with that. Now I sent my kids to moisdis. No one asked any questions. No one, oh, you're from a chutznik background. But my parents, with their American accent, had trouble with that. And that's an issue. So when people move back, that's usually the first thing they start feeling, where they feel like they're unwanted. And it's not that they're unwanted. It's just the system is set in its ways, and fighting against the system is always an issue.
City Hall is the
There's no malicious intent. No one's saying, oh, we don't want chutznikim. But they have their systems and they have their quotas for different communities, and they do the same thing for chutznikim. And if you fight it, and it's not easy at first, but in the end, it works out. You integrate, your kids are doing well in the system. And when that happens, then people start to worry about the financial part. Usually they don't move back just for that. When people consider moving back, it's because there's a bunch of things that have accumulated and they feel like things aren't working. So this is beyond the scope of my expertise to talk about chinuch, but that's what people usually worry about. That's why people usually move back.
So you're saying that people don't move back just for parnassah? From the way you see it.
From my personal experience and the people I grew up around and the people I've seen, not just because of parnassah.
Because people will say, it's also worth taking the extra, we'll take a bit of extra.
People who really want to live in Eretz Yisrael, they're willing to reduce their lifestyle just to live in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael makes be surm, and it's not going to be the same as America. And many of them do it. There are a ton of Yungalite in the mirror. You could go around and see them that they're doing it. It works.
Mesiras nefesh for Torah, absolutely.
Absolute Mesiras nefesh, yes. For Torah, for Eretz Yisrael, I'm not going to say just for Torah because also Eretz Yisrael is an ideal for people, and it's a good ideal. Yeah, I believe all Yidden should be in Eretz Yisrael. I believe Eretz Yisrael is the place for Yidden. Kimitzia and Teitzei Torah, we see that there is a big oil of Torah in Lakewood, but overall there is no leis man depolig, that the place for Yidden and people in Chutz La'aretz are feeling it. The past 2 years especially. 3 years now, almost since the beginning of the war. Chutz La'aretz is not so nice to Yidden anymore.
No.
There's a lot of anti-Semitism, and Eretz Yisrael is the place for Yidden. I'm not a Tziyoni, but the way Hashgacha Pratis has worked, you see, there's a big Olam HaTorah. The majority of Am Yisrael is living in Eretz Yisrael.
Yes.
I don't know if yet the majority, because that raised halachic issues if Roy Yishvel, but definitely this is a place, and anyone who wants to move to Eretz Yisrael, this is definitely the place for Yidden. But there's a price to be paid, and there are sacrifices to be made, and you have to make the decision with open eyes, understand what you're walking into.
If a guy calls you up before coming to Israel, what's your tips?
So first of all, I ask them basic question. Are you living on a budget now? Do you know what your cost of living is in America, and do you actually control your expenses? Do you know what you need to live? And then I'd present them with the basic cost of living of certain things. It's very different in Eretz Yisrael versus Chutz La'aretz. The big line items in America, which are healthcare insurance and chinuch, are almost non-existent in Eretz Yisrael, but there are other things that need to be taken into consideration. And work around the numbers and figure out if their income could support their lifestyle. So if they're working long distance and they're working in America, they keep their American job and they work here, then like I said, that's a big step towards actually making it work. If they want to come here and they want to work here and they're looking for parnassah in Eretz Yisrael, then the language is an issue. It always is. And people who could work around that, who could figure out a way to work in an American environment or learn the language and find a job, that's the first step. Make sure you have some sort of plan. You don't have to, I'm not saying everything has to be in place, right, but you have to have a basic plan of what can I do, what services can I provide, what skills are transferable, what type of jobs are available in Eretz Yisrael. And of course, you have to look at the chinuch and look at where you're living, because the cost of living varies greatly between the different neighborhoods. Someone who will insist on living in Ramat Eshkol or even in Yerushalayim, even in Neve Yaakov, the price of everything is higher in Yerushalayim. So the example
could even be more expensive than Lakewood. A house in
we're talking about housing.
Yeah.
There's the housing for sure is a lot more expensive. Like an average 4-bedroom apartment in Ramat Eshkol is probably around 13 or 14,000 shekel a month in rent, right, while the equivalent apartment in Beit Shemesh is around 8,500 shekel in rent. That's a very big difference. If people are willing to move out to Afula or Tveria, prices are half of that. But even on the basics, even on other things, the price in Yerushalayim is higher. So the example I like to bring is daycare. So I have a kid who's, Baruch Hashem, he just turned 2, and he goes to Metapelet, the private daycare. I pay, I think it's 1,300 shekel a month from 9 to 3:30, including lunch. My sister has a kid the same age. She lives in remote in Yerushalayim, and she's paying 1,850.
1.5 times.
50% more.
Yeah.
50% more. For the same thing. Because everything is more expensive in Yerushalayim, so the daycare charges more, and people have to pay the price. So if someone chooses to live in the popular neighborhoods, so it's not just the price of housing will be more expensive, everything is more expensive. Groceries, not that much, because
there's enough competition.
There's enough competition, and Ol Sharad and Beit Shemesh and Ol Sharad and Yerushalayim are basically priced the same, right. But on all the other things that are local, there's a difference in price just on those.
Wow. And there's the other issue, which is, I'm sure you've heard of, you've come across this over the last year, the dollar shekel exchange. The dollar used to be, well, back in the day, it was, 4.20, 4.50. But in the last year, how much did the dollar drop? 20%, maybe even more?
Yeah, 25% from the height of probably 13, 14 months ago. And people who were expecting to live off the American salary, live off their or income or investments in America, now they're making less. What's the answer to that? Is there an answer to that? So I had a family that came to coaching in Mesila. Different coach was accompanying them. And they came to Eretz Yisrael about a year ago. They were thinking of buying a house in, I think it was Ramat Beit Shemesh, and they had $1 million
In dollars.
equity. Yeah,
Yeah.
That was their down payment for a house. They sold their house in America. They were going to buy a house here in Israel, and they were on the market for a couple of months. And within that time, the dollar dropped from 3.5 to 3.2. Just like that, 300,000 shekel.
Wiped off.
Gone. So there are solutions. If someone is consistently making money in America and living off it in Israel, so if they're making enough, then it works. I know, again, from personal experience, my sister works in an American job. She works, that's where she makes her money, and they don't even transfer the money over here. They just swipe the credit card and it pays their bills over there. And my brother-in-law was complaining about it, but he said overall she makes more than the average, that we still make it work. So now I'm saving. I'm saving a little bit less, which he's not that happy about. But
Obviously.
it's not life changing. It's not doesn't get them into trouble on a month-to-month basis. But anyone who's an import and export knows that there are ways to hedge the dollar. You could buy call options and put options in the market to hedge the dollar value. And if you're consistently transferring money back and forth, then that's something to consider. Obviously, you should speak to a professional regarding this topic, because options it's not for people who don't understand what they're doing. But
if you don't know what you're doing, don't touch it.
Don't touch it. But you should speak to a financial professional, financial advisor, a certified licensed financial advisor, and they should be able to tell you about that. It's especially relevant if you're moving large sums of money and there's a lot of volatility with the shekel dollar. Now, I don't know if it's because the dollar is going down or the shekel is going up. It's a little bit of both. Currently, it seems to have stabilized, sort of, but
in the 3 range.
Yeah, in the 3 range. So.
But a year ago it was 360, 370.
Right. So if you're living off your dollars, now would probably not be the time to pay for hedging, because when you hedge the dollar, you're paying a fee which doesn't come back. You don't make the money back. If the dollar will drop, then you get the dollars at the same fee, and then you saved money. But if you didn't, then you've paid. It's basically insurance. So if it comes to it, it was worth it. If it doesn't, then you're paying a fee. So it's not a long-term
loss.
It's not a long-term solution. It's a short-term solution. If we were talking a year ago, then this is what I recommended to people. It's like, oh, the dollar's been going down lately. For the next 6 months, you should consider hedging your dollars so that even if it goes down even more, you're still okay. And then at some point, you have to adjust to the new reality. Just like Bank of Israel doesn't always intervene and try to control the exchange rate. At the beginning of the war, they did it because it was mostly due to speculation. But in the past year, they haven't. Just recently, they said they will a little bit.
Months ago.
Yeah.
A month or 2 ago.
Right. But the reason for that is because if there's a real adjustment in the economy, then Bank of Israel doesn't want to inflate the shekel artificially. So they might intervene a little bit just to make sure that people working in export don't lose money too fast, because again, a company that's producing in Israel, software companies, for instance, and they're selling their product to Chutz La'aretz, their earnings were cut by 20% this year. And they're paying salaries in shekels. So they need the shekels.
They're at the loss.
They're at a loss. So if the prices go down too fast, then the Bank of Israel will try to stabilize things and make it go down slowly. But overall, if this is the new economy, this is how things are going to be going forward, then companies have to figure out a way to live around that. Same goes for people who are making their money in Chutz La'aretz. That's it. Now we've sort of stabilized around 3 shekel per dollar. This is what it is. You've got to figure out a way to make it work. Hoping that it'll go back up to 3.5% and to 3.5 shekel. And if that happens, I can make it work. That's not a plan.
No.
That's not a long-term plan. It's not even a short-term plan. But there are ways. If you're doing this, you should know that those tools exist and be aware of them, because in times of volatility with our president currently in the White House, these could go any which way. So there's something that people should look into, especially if they are consistently moving money back and forth.
Back in the day, the couples would come to Israel for a year or two, live off the credit card of the parents, enjoy life in Israel, and move back. Do these people come for coaching? Do you see them? Do you hear from them?
What do you think?
When times get tough.
When times get tough. Usually they don't. Usually they have...
The credit card keeps going.
They have support. They call it support. They have support. And as long as the credit card keeps going, and they get used to a very high, very different lifestyle. They eat out all the time. I see it all the time. But I've had a couple of those in the past year who've reached out to Mesila because they felt that they lack control. People reach out for financial coaching either when things get really bad or sometimes even without them being really bad. Some people, like I said, some people are savers, and it's like they can't reconcile it. 1 second, what's going on here? They feel like they have no control. They don't know where the money's going. The money just keeps going and going and going. I just read it today on an intake form. The money's coming and going and going and going, and I have no idea where. So that's like a common thing that people struggle with, and sometimes they reach out, but not as often as I'd hope. I personally believe that everyone should go through at least 1 or 2 sessions of financial coaching just to learn the basics.
Every young couple.
If they didn't do it when they were young, they should do it when they're older. Yeah, for sure. And so they're just basics, things that if you know, make a huge impact on your financial future. The 2 big decisions that people make in their lives, and they usually, and many times, they don't go and ask for advice, are buying a house and committing to a long-term mortgage with interest rates they know nothing about, and investing in their future for retirement, which is 40-year time horizon, compounding. If you put in the right tool and the right investing vehicle, and you know what the cost of investing is and the fees, and you work those things out, that could be a difference of millions. I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
Millions of shekels or even dollars throughout a lifetime of a family. How much do you think an average family spends over a lifetime?
Never thought of it.
What's the cost of living? How much does it cost to live? A couple got married. Let's say they're both 20.
Till 120 at my vesum.
Let's make it 85.
Okay.
60 years. Okay, 65 years.
Right.
What's the cost of living? For an average family, let's say an average, they're going to have 6 children. From regular mainstream family. What's the cost of living over a lifetime?
Wow. Millions. I don't know. I would know. 10 million?
10 million.
Shekel.
10 million shekel. Okay. The average.
I just threw a number without thinking it through.
Okay. Great.
No pen and paper. No. Okay.
I do this in lectures all the time. And there's always someone in the background who yells 100 million.
Okay.
And then it ruins the surprise. The number is between 15 and 20 million shekel. Okay. So if we just to explain how we got to this math. So like we said, the average expenditure for a person in a household is around 2,000 shekel a month. We're being modest. We're going on the lower number.
Before you said 2.5.
Right. 2 to 2.5.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go 2,000 shekel a month. Let's say that the cost of housing is another 4,000 shekel a month. So we're talking about 20,000 shekel a month for a family of
6 kids.
6 kids, family of 8. Now, I know they're not a family of 8 when they get married. I know. But overall, these things tend to even out.
Right.
And we're talking 240,000 shekel a year. Multiply that by 10 years. That's 2.5 million shekel times 6.5.
Gets you to 15.
15
plus.
Between 15 and 20.
Plus,
between 15 and 20. If you were running a $15 million business, would you let it run on its own?
No.
So why do we ignore? Why do we neglect our finances?
What's the answer you hear?
The answer is that people don't think in that time horizon. They think on a month-to-month basis.
They don't think בכלל.
They just handle things as they come. And when
easy come, easy go.
And when you extend the time horizon, that's like the first thing I do with people. This will happen whether you like it or not. You can either be prepared. You can either happen to life or let life happen to you. So if you start investing at a young age, compounding is on your side. You don't have to make 20,000 shekel a month in order to make it. You could be making a lot less.
A coital couple, they're not making 20,000
shekel. Yeah, they could be making a lot less.
But
the little bit they're putting aside.
1 or 2 kids, right?
$1 you put away today in 40 years, on average, is multiplied by 42. So
that's a number.
That's a number. If we cut the time horizon down a little bit, then in 30 years it's around 22, and in the 15 years it's around 16. Whatever the exact whatever. We're not going to work through the exact math now of compounding, but if you have compounding growth working on your side, then you don't have to make 15 million shekel throughout a lifetime.
No.
You could bring in from your job, from your income, a lot less than that. But as long as you were consistent and you invested, you'll have what to pay all your debt, even if you accumulated debt. If you didn't do crazy debt and bad debt and credit card debt, we're not going to talk about that, 25% annually, that's the average now in America, crazy numbers. If you don't get into bad debt and you manage things in a responsible way, it could work. But you have to plan it. You don't let a 20 million shekel business run on its own. A household is basically a business. There's income, right, and there's output, there's expenditure. You have to manage it. So that's different framing. A lot of people don't think about that.
Talking about the long-term numbers, retirement. There are a lot of couples who want to live their last years, or their kids or grandchildren have moved on to Eretz Yisrael. They want to come to be with them. It's a nice place to, not just a nice place, it's Eretz Yisrael, Mokum Kodesh and all that, but they want to come here, they want to live here. They've worked all their lives. Does that work?
It's the same. If they have the income to support it, then yes, it is. If they don't, then it doesn't work. Usually people, when they retire, they want to be a little bit looser about
take things easy.
They want to take things a little bit easy.
Yeah.
So they have to examine their situation. Where would they be living? Would they need any assistance in further down the line? And do they plan on making Aliyah? Will they be part of the welfare system here? Will they get the benefits or will they not? Depending on what age they're moving here, they have to live here at least 10 years and pay into Bituach Leumi at least for 10 years in order to get all of the benefits from Bituach Leumi. It's a numbers question. It's pretty straightforward. Like, figure out what you want to be spending on, build a budget. Okay, this is what I want to be spending on housing. This is what I need to spend on healthcare. This is what I need for insurance. This is how much I want to be spending on my grandchildren and hosting and whatever it is.
Helping towards weddings or
if it works, yeah. Sure. If it works, of course. Are people generally that organized when it comes to retirement? Because from the little I've been following the situation in America, retirement is an issue. It's like more than 50% of people in their 40s have no idea if they're saving for retirement or aren't saving for retirement. Those are the numbers I've heard. In Eretz Yisrael, it's a little bit different, but
because it is built in the
it's built in, yeah.
The system, right?
It's built into the system. So, do people have that money? You're saying the people who want to retire to Eretz Yisrael. You're talking about the people that do have the money.
Or people have the dream. Always, the dream of owning a deer, moving to Eretz Yisrael. Do you get these sort of customers? Do you get these sort of...
I have yet to meet someone of that sort.
What would you say to someone considering a retirement, as you said?
I do the same thing. I'd walk through a basic budget. Let's figure out what your expenses would be. It's like very straightforward. It's so simple that people are surprised, like, oh, that's it. But I heard a quote.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, everything is easier said than done. I heard a quote from someone. Said that common sense is so rare today, it may as well be a superpower.
Okay.
People don't think. They think about what they want. This is the dream. This is what they've been thinking about. This is what they've been working for their entire life. They don't want to give up on the dream, and they don't stop to think if it does it actually fit my reality. Does it actually fit my financial reality? And you have to do a reality check. Let's stop. Let's run through the numbers. If it makes sense, please. If it doesn't, then we have to rethink things. Maybe we'd have to work for a little bit longer. Maybe we'd have to buy a smaller apartment. Maybe we won't be able to host as much. Maybe we won't be able to help our children and grandchildren as much as we wanted because our dream was to live in Eretz Yisrael. For everything, there's almost every big thing people want to achieve in their lives, there's a price to be paid. There's a sacrifice. You can't have it all. The question is, what's more important? So you sacrifice the things that are less important for the things that are more important. Those are the basics.
So that's not your decision to make. That's not your place to make the decision.
We never make a decision for people. Never. in financial coaching, I've had that people come in and say, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to spend on.
That's already psychology.
Yeah, you want me, I said, you want me to balance your budget? Okay, it looks like you're spending 2,000 shekel a month on wine, another 2,000 shekel a month on cigarettes. Let's cut those out. And you own 2 cars and you have an expensive car. So no. Okay, of course. I'm not going to tell you what you to cut out. You ask me what you can cut out. I look at these and I see these are a want. You say they're a need. Okay, so these are the pieces. Make it work. This is the puzzle. This is what you're making. This is what you're spending on. If it all fits, excellent. If it doesn't fit, either you have to cut one side or you have to add more on the other side. Figure out a way. We never make decisions for people. Rarely. Sometimes people come like, I really don't know. But usually when you tell them what they should do, then they say, oh no, I want to do something else. So then once again, great. It's your decision. I stand behind your decision.
What's your best day in the office scenario? No calls? Does a no-call day mean everything's, cloudy soul is...
No calls is a bad day.
Bad day?
Yeah, no calls is a bad day. No calls, that means that there are people out there who need our help that aren't reaching out for whatever reason. So a good day in the office is when I've seen 10 to 15 meeting summaries come through the system from our coaches. And I see the great job and the great work they're doing and helping people create a different financial future for themselves and for their children. And that's what we're here to do. I as someone who's experienced this on my own, and we all do, that's the point. Almost every single one of our coaches has gone through some sort of financial struggle, which brought them to, I want to learn more about this and let more people know about this. Mesila is a nonprofit. The coaches get paid, the families pay for the service because, once again, we're going to go into the psychology. Mesila used to charge around, I think it was 600 shekel for a coaching process, 6 meetings. The coach used to be paid something like 70 shekel for a meeting. And we had like 70% of people didn't complete the process. Because if you don't pay for something, if it doesn't hurt, you don't commit. And the coaches also weren't as committed because they weren't getting paid. So now people pay and the coaches get paid nicely, but it's all for the good of everyone. The coaches are more committed, they're more professional, and the clients are more committed because we have to make this work. We paid this money, it has to work. We have to figure out a way. So that's what we've discovered the hard way. We've gone through the path. The prices have been slowly increasing, and we found an equilibrium sort of in the past 3 years. Prices have basically stayed the same.
So a good day is when you get the feedback from the families that they're back on track.
And if we have a workshop in the evening, that's great. I love going out there, meeting the people, talking to them. And every workshop is an eye-opener. People come over, they're like, I've never heard this before. This is new to me. And it is. It was new to me, and it's now new to them. And hopefully these things cause them to take the next step in taking responsibility and taking their financial future into their own hands.
What's from your experience? What are people more opening up to, one-on-one sessions or to workshops?
Are you asking what people are more open to or what's more effective?
No, where would people open up more?
Open up as in sharing their
sharing their personal experiences.
I haven't seen people open up in workshops, but that may be due to the way I conduct the workshops where I don't expect them to open up. There is, in the Frum Kehillah in general, I don't want to say money is taboo, but money is not something that we're proud of. People don't walk around saying, I want to be rich. Some do. Most don't. And I ask this question a lot in workshops also, who wants to be a millionaire? And maybe out of 50 or 70 people, maybe 1 or 2 raise their hands. And I ask, who wants to marry off their kids without any debt? And then everyone raises their hands. They said, okay, so let's just admit it. You want to be millionaires by the age of 45. Let's admit it.
That's right.
Okay, it's a noble cause. I believe it's just fine to want money. The thing is, you don't want money for the sake of money. You have a real need for it. So what's wrong? Money is gashmi. It's a lamaza. We don't want money.
We want to pay schar limud.
We want to be able to afford the things that we need. We don't want money.
We need to marry off our kids.
And because of that, people aren't so open to sharing their financial situation as well. Because money is something that a lot of people don't like talking about. There's a lot of shame involved because we should be able to make it. Everyone around us is making it. They're not. But the feeling is that everyone's making it. They all have these new cars and these nice houses and they're going on vacations and we need to do it. Well, why aren't we making it?
To keep up with everyone else.
Keeping up with the cones, right? And why aren't we making it? So there's a lot of shame involved. So in a workshop, it's very hard to work around that. You could change people's perspective and change the paradigm. One second, money isn't bad. But when I sit one-on-one with people, people are more open to sharing their situation. They don't have a choice. They paid. So they're like, if we don't do this, why are we here? And I ask them the same question. How much money do you want to make? Do you want to be a millionaire? Most of them say no. And most of them say, I want to make. I don't want to make. I need to make. I need to make. I want. I don't want. I need. There's this much money is what I need. And once again, no one wins by accident. I want everyone to win with money. I want everyone to be successful. I want all Yidden to be rich. I believe that it. Yes, I know the nisayon of Aisher. Yeah. Halavai al Klal Yisrael. I trust in Klal Yisrael that the same way they've been dealing with the nisayon of Oini, they'll deal with the nisayon of Aisher. We'll do it, Baruch Hashem, like we know how to do. So without goals, there's no way you could progress. The second stage of every coaching process, the first stage is awareness. We go through the numbers and we figure out where people are standing, where they're really standing, what their real expenses are, what their real income is, what they're spending their money on. Takes a couple of hours. You have to comb through the paperwork, figure out what's the average expenditure on certain items and where's the money really going to? And that's like an eye-opening.
And all of a sudden, wow.
That's an eye-opening experience to people. It's like, what? We've been spending that much money on energy drinks and the gas station and the different things that pop up when you do that. And the second part of every coaching process is crafting a financial vision. What do you want to achieve financially? Now, it doesn't have to be a monetary outcome. It doesn't have to be a number. Let's talk about the lifestyle you want. What do you want your life to look like? What are the things that you want to be able to afford for your family and for your children and for your grandchildren? Okay, then we'll put a number on that, and then we'll then we'll reverse engineer it and figure out what needs to happen today. And part of the vision is the price, because basically all financial success could be attributed to this one personality trait: giving up short-term comfort for long-term prosperity. That's what it is. Long-term comfort, whatever it is. Yeah. You have to, usually, that's what it is. The marshmallow test, but on steroids. There's something you have to give up. It may be your ideal workday, a work-life balance, which you'd have to give up at this point in your life. It may be the neighborhood you want to live in. It may be the vacations you won't take during these years. And yes, you live life only once, and there is a time for everything. And of course, I'm not all for just saving, because there are things that you won't be able to do later on in life. There's this concept of, I've heard about in the financial circles, a guy wrote a book called Die With Nothing, where what's the point of accumulating wealth if you don't use it? Right. And there are certain things that you could use money for, which are ruchnius and gashmius, and whatever it is, building experiences and enjoying your money in a way that serves the lifestyle that you choose, which can only be done at certain stages. You probably won't be taking up skiing as a hobby when you're 65. Now, I'm not saying you should, but if this is something you want to do, then okay, so the price is I'll have less money to pay for things later on because I can't save that money now because I want to do this experience now. There are certain things, and there's a time and place for everything, but be aware of the prices. So the price may be sacrificing things now. The price may be sacrificing part of your vision. If you're not willing to pay that price, okay, so then this vision isn't realistic. If you're telling me I want to own 3 houses on a private island and you're not doing anything to move you in that direction, that's not a real price. That's chalaimus. Chalaimus are just fine. But a vision has to be realistic. What do you really want? What's really important for you? What are you willing to sacrifice in order to achieve that? And that's a very, very strong motivator for people. It's like, oh, now we have a long-term plan. Now we know that when we're paying the price now, we know what it's for. It's not just like, oh, they have to just make the end of the month and I need living. So now I have to give this up. And then they feel like they're sacrificing something. And it's like life has taken something from them.
Right.
Instead of we're paying it down and we're going to get paid back. We're buying our future. We're buying the future that we want. So that's a tool that we use, and it's extremely powerful. If you've never crafted for yourself a vision, sit down with your wife, take the time, and discuss what would we like our life to look like in 10, 20, and 30 years down the line. Not only financially, just how do I envision it? What will my day look like? What will I do? How will I keep myself occupied? Where will I be spending my money? What are the things that I don't do today, which I want to achieve later on?
I would want.
Yeah, I really want. When I think about it, you never put it down. You never said it in words. You never put it down on paper. It's all chalemus. If it's a dream, nothing could come of it. When you take a dream and you give it a time period, you give it a date, then it becomes a goal. When you take a goal and break it down to steps, then it becomes something you can do. And when you follow the steps, it becomes reality.
Halavai.
Anything could happen. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes the reality requires people to make big life changes. It's like the career path I'm on now can't support this vision I'm envisioning, so I need to reconsider. Maybe I need to take up maybe open a business. Maybe I need to consider changing my career path. That's where the big decisions come from. Because otherwise we don't like change. We some people like novelty, they like a little bit of change, but people like security. We're used to what we do. I'm familiar. I know it's my salaries. I know them.
Yeah.
Now going out there and putting myself out there and trying to learn a new profession, a new career, and things are changing so fast with them. AI and this and that. Let me not think about it. I'll focus on what I do. I'll put my head down and I'll work hard and I'll do it and it'll work. And when they sit down right. and they think about what they really want, suddenly their priorities shift and they're like, oh, now I'm willing to do this. Now I'm willing to do this. I advise it. Try it. You'll find interesting things about yourself that you never thought about, that's like sitting in the back of your mind, especially when you do it with your spouse. It's like, oh, I didn't know that you wanted that. I never knew that this was so important to you. Maybe something that's easy. We can make that happen. What were we waiting for? But sometimes it's like, oh, that will require us to change some things, but we could do this. It's achievable.
Everything's achievable. It's a matter of
how committed you are, how intentional, and how intense. Some people are intense. They get things done faster. They want to do everything right away. Pay off my debt. I got to do this. I got to do that. People like that. Some people are like, no, I'm not willing to give up and sacrifice that much for the next 2 years. I'd rather take me 6 or 7 years to get on track and live a little in the meantime. So I'm not saying one's better than the other. Both work. Depends on who you are and what your priorities are.
Do you have much backlash from people? For example, you give them a strategy and they just, it platzes, as we'd call it.
I've had that, and it's usually when they're not willing to face reality. So
they have to get off the cloud.
Yeah. So I've had a family that I coached that they were making well over the average income. They were bringing in the two of them together around 50,000 shekel a month. For people in Chutz La'aretz, this may not seem like a lot of money. It's $20,000 a month. People are making $200,000 a year in Lakewood, 220, 240. People are doing that. I understand that that's the minimum to make it. But over here in Israel, this is like top percentile. Right. This is like extremely doing well for themselves, and they couldn't make it happen.
Wow.
They were struggling on the month-to-month basis. No real debt. They didn't even have a mortgage. They owned their home outright, but they were paying 10,000 shekel a month on cars, because they had to buy new cars. Wow. And it's like, oh, we need this. And no matter how you turn the numbers and make them face it, they weren't willing. They were looking for a quick fix. Just come in here and make things work for us. Tell us how to do it and it should work. We just need something to automate things. It's too hard for us. And they said, no, we'll go through the numbers and tell me what your expenses are, what you're spending money on. Where is the money actually going? You might find some surprises. And then I did it for them. It's like, you know that you're spending around 4,000 shekel a month on online purchasing, Amazon, AliExpress, next, almost once a day. But it's only 100 shekel here, 100 shekel there. It's things I needed.
That's right.
Okay, but it all adds up. I don't think that's the issue. Okay, let's look at your groceries. They were spending double the average on groceries because they were buying their fruits and vegetables from one of the high-end greengrocers, and they're buying the most expensive meat, and they're eating flesh eggs every day. I'm all for it. Just, are you aware? No, I don't think that the groceries are the issue. Okay, let's go next line at them. And one at a time, they managed to rationalize every single one of their expenses. It's like, we had to buy a new pool because summer's coming. So we bought a new pool, and then we signed up for a service to come clean the pool, which is another couple of 100 shekel a month. And all these things add up. And you give them the plan and say, okay, this is what you need to do. And it's like,
the books don't
it's too difficult.
balance.
It's too difficult. It's too difficult. And they had a hard time facing reality. So that's where my job as a coach comes in. It's like, okay, so you know what? Let's do this. Track this for the next week. Just write down every single thing you spend money on. And suddenly they become a little bit more aware of where the money's going. And they start asking themselves, do we really want this? Do we not want this? But it happens all the time. You get pushed back when people are unaware. Once people are aware of their situation, they face reality. It's like, what can I push back on? You have a few choices. You could either cut your expenses, enhance your income. You could say this is something that will only be short term and focus on some sort of financing just to get through this. Or you could do nothing. But that's also a choice. You're choosing to do nothing. And if you do nothing, eventually, either the stress will catch up with you or you'll slide into debt. It's one of the two. So
you can't force people.
Yeah, no, you can't push back on that.
No.
It is what it is. Reality is reality. Do what you want. These are the options. I'll help you build a plan. Tell me what you choose. What's your choice? How do you want to proceed? How do we move forward? Okay. Now let's get a vision in place. Let's understand what you really want to achieve, because what you're doing now is not where you want to be because you're not happy, which is why you're here. Excellent. Let's figure out what you want. Okay. Now what's the best path to get there? And what price are you willing to pay? If you're not willing to give up the new,
purchases of this and that,
whatever it is.
Right.
It's the newest water bottle or cup, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever the new thing is. Okay. Ultimately, it's your life, your choice. I could teach you things that you don't know. I could show you a way. I could show you a path. I could tell you that, listen, what you're going through is not unusual. It's not hopeless. There is a way out. There is a way forward. But if you choose to apply the things in your life or not, it's up to the people.
That's what it all boils down to. You can't force.
You can't force people into doing things. You could do it for them for a while, but then once you step back, they'll slide back into their old habits. People are motivated by one of two things: either by pain, they want to move away from something, or by pleasure, they want to move towards something.
Right.
You need a little bit of both. If you focus only on negativity, then that causes people to give up and it feels hopeless. It's like, this is so bad, but I can't stay here anymore, but I don't know what to do. So you have to give them some sort of plan. A vision, a way forward. There is a way out of this and you could be doing well for yourself. That's what the vision is for. But they have to be in enough pain in order to change, because otherwise they won't get started. Because if they're sort of making it and they've learned to live with it, and they're like, yeah, I know this is very nice to have, but this is even nicer. Buying a new car, not thinking about it it's just easier. Just walk into the dealership. I don't have to look through the websites, whatever it is, Yad Shtaim or something, to find a secondhand car which is in good condition, and go out there and figure out how to take it to a mechanic I trust and test the car, and then you have to figure out how to transfer the money and the whole thing. I'll just walk into the dealership. They'll sign me up. I'll sign right on the paper. I'll walk out with a new car, zero money. Next payment is another 30 days. Very easy. It's very convenient. It's easier. We've become such a consumer focused. Everyone. It's all about consumerism. It's the new religion for some people. In the film circles, not as much, but a little bit.
Seeping in.
Yeah, it seeps in. And you see people doing it. And when you see your neighbors doing it, it's like, they're not making more money than me and they're living this lifestyle. So why do I have to, why do I have to cut back? Why do I have to cut back? What's a budget? How do you define a budget? Because a budget is one of the, it's like when you tell people they have to budget, that scares people. I don't like budgeting. How do you define a budget?
You see what you're making, you see what goes in, what goes out. And if it's whichever.
Is a budget a restricting tool or an enabling tool?
It's different, the plus and the minus.
So I define a budget as a tool that tells your money where to go instead of you asking, where has it gone? Meaning, a lot of people view a budget as something that restricts them. It's holding me back from things I really, really want.
But this guy doesn't let me buy it.
But is that really what you want? Or is that what you've been convinced that you want? Because the companies are out there to try and trick you all the time. Absolutely. We're not going to go into the full behavioral psychology, but behavioral economics, but it's a thing. They frame it. There's framing, and there's ownership bias, and then there's loss aversion, and all these things are in play all the time. When they have a discount and they give you the high price, and then they strike it off and they put the small price on it, it's like, oh, that seems cheap. It's 80% off.
That's right.
Yeah, you know, it would be 100% off. Not buying it at all. He could save 100%. No, but now I need it. Yeah. Now I need it. It's a limited edition. It's not going to come back. Suddenly there's urgency. And people feel it, and we fall for it all the time. Unless we're aware, we always fall for it. The thing is that even after we know about it, we still fall for it because it's just the way our brains are programmed. These heuristics, as they call them, Kahneman and Tversky, they serve us on many, many, many different levels. We make thousands of decisions a day, and if we had to think consciously about every single one of them, it would be exhausting.
Right.
When you put on your tzitzis last time, did you think about the exact force and velocity and direction you have to throw it over so that it goes all the way over your head?
No,
you didn't. I see my 5-year-old. Yeah. He puts on tzitzis and the strings always get stuck over his shoulders because he hasn't figured it out yet. But once your brain recognizes the pattern, you just fall into the behavior every single time. Click, do it automatically. And things that are scarce are usually more valuable because if there's less of them, then we should make sure we have enough of it. So companies use this. And even when you know that this is how your brain works, it's still, you're on autopilot. Right. So being aware helps, but just the way things are, just keep on falling back into these habits. So you show people this. And then sometimes they realign. Sometimes they put the habits in place that are guardrails and stop them from making these mistakes. But a big one is we're social creatures. When people around us have things, we also want them. People want what other people have, and people want what they can't have. So it's like, I need this. I really need this. And when you understand why this is happening to you, why you feel that way, then sometimes it helps you stop and say, you know something, I don't really need this. Sometimes it doesn't. Even after you know, it still looks like something desirable. And people fall for it all the time. Me as well. In different places. All of us. I know how at some point you learn where to put the lines. Like, okay, I'll let it happen up to a certain amount. Yeah. Like expenses up to 500 shekel. Okay. Anything over 500 shekel, 24-hour rule. I really want it. Okay, let's rethink it. If I still want it tomorrow, we'll get it. If not, these are like small little tricks that help, but do they help all the time? No, they don't. But if you don't do them, then you'll fall for it more often. Happens to all of us. It's part of being human.
What's your one-liner you'd like to one-line message you'd like to convey?
Can I have two?
I've said it.
All you didn't belong in Eretz Yisrael. Everyone should strive to move to Eretz Yisrael, and it's very convenient, and America and Chutz La'aretz are very, very materialistically advanced as opposed to Eretz Yisrael, but there is something to living in Eretz Yisrael. I'm not going to quote the Ramban. I'll leave that to other people. But if you have this feeling, this need to come to move to Eretz Yisrael, look into it. When you do it responsibly. Do it responsibly. It has to be done the right way. It's not like some people tell us that you have to throw out your moichin on the way to the Rebbe, to Uman. It doesn't work. It's not the same. Some places that works. When it comes here, you have to think about it, make an informed decision, have a plan, and then, by all means, I want to see all of you come to Eretz Yisrael, Mirz Hashem, v'yas Mashiach tzidkenu. Another thing is, you're capable to more than you're capable to achieve more than you think you can, if you just put your mind to it. There is a way, there's a system. If you just do the steps, it'll work. There are basically 4 things you need to do in order to be financially successful. Now, you have to make more money than you spend. You have to have an emergency fund because emergencies happen. Invest consistently and avoid consumer debt. That's it. You could add on a 5th one, which is be makbid on meiser. But I'll leave that because some people, last time I said that, someone said, meiser basman hazeh is not, okay, we'll leave that out. Yeah. But those are the basics. And it's so simple. When you say it that way, you have to make more money than you spend, have an emergency fund, invest consistently, and avoid consumer debt. Easier said than done. But if you follow those things, you will be financially successful. There are tools, there are methods, there are proven methods that work. If you don't know, reach out to someone, ask about it, learn about it. Just being aware that there is a financial world surrounding us and there are financial decisions that have huge impact on our lives has been proven in research to cause people to make better financial decisions. And the interesting part about this is that usually the gap between knowledge and actually implementing and using that knowledge is high. People know what they need to do, but they don't do it.
Right.
But there is a correlation between financial awareness and actual change of financial behaviors. So open your eyes, ask around, learn some more, and Mirz Hashem, I want all Yidden to be rich.
Halavai. Oh man. And as we started, we now are the 3 weeks. We may all Yidden come to Eretz Yisrael, and as you said, be successful in Eretz Yisrael. Do it properly. Do it prepared. Come prepared. Know what you're doing. Know what you're in for. And b'tzata d'shmaya.
Thank you, Rabbi Yossi. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Rav Zev. Kol tov.